The New York Post has revealed the first images of Ryan Routh's home in Hawaii. He now faces up to 20 years in prison. Does it concern you that the FBI were warned about his behaviour, yet he was able to get within a couple of hundred metres of the president?
It's not surprising that the FBI knew about him, especially based on his involvement in recruiting fighters in Ukraine for approximately 3 months, and also his weapons charges, including a charge of possession of a weapon of mass destruction. We haven't heard many more specifics about that. It's also not a surprise that he's come to the attention of numerous state and local law enforcement agencies here in the United States. What we have not heard about is whether or not this individual was known to the U.S. Secret Service. They have not commented on that yet.
Okay, well, look, we've had two attempts on Trump's life. We want all leaders, of course, to be safe. Why does this keep happening to Donald Trump?
Yeah, well, look, the threat level here in the United States is the highest it's ever been. We face more threats from more places at any time in our history. Domestically, we've got political divisiveness is off the charts, even though there's bipartisan calls for him and others to be well protected by the Secret Service. We really need to tone it down here with respect to the political rhetoric. Because quite frankly, you just don't know the type of people who listen to this. And some may not be of right mind, but still may be able to formulate a plan of attack, which makes them very dangerous. And this not only applies for the former president, but also to other principals within the U.S. government. So everybody needs to be protected. And the Secret Service should be paying attention to the threat level and making sure that they're able to mitigate these threats.
Clearly, the Secret Service has been failing. It's been struggling with its communications. Do you think the agency needs to undergo a complete transformation?
Well, I can tell you in both situations in Pennsylvania and Florida, we saw success and failure. Unfortunately, the success came at the inner perimeter, the former president's protective detail, who are with him all the time and travel with him. Whenever you see that inner perimeter, that protection detail, have to react and respond the way they did in these two latest attempts, that means something has failed and failed horribly wrong in the overall security plan. So the failures are a failure in leadership. They have failed to apply the proper resources that are necessary. They have failed to recognize the significance of the threat level towards the former president well in advance to these attempts taking place. And I can tell you that the feeling is, including my own, is that it is time for the agency to overgo a thorough review and if necessary, a thorough transformation.
Do you have confidence that that will happen?
Well, these are not two good situations which have occurred. These are the worst case scenarios that the Secret Service can face, just short of a successful assassination attempt taking place. So if we don't change leadership now, then when? There are big decisions that need to be made. You know, Congress wants to give the agency more money. They want to make sure that they have the right resources, but you also don't want to send all of these things over there if you don't have the right leadership in place. So that's what really needs to be looked at. I think that's what the U.S. Congress is wrestling with right now, because these failures are just unacceptable and they should have never have happened. And when these did happen, they exposed other cracks in the system. You brought up communications, rightfully so. Coordination with state and local law enforcement. You know, the Secret Service is responsible for not only creating the overall security plan, but also implementing it. And so when you have a failure, it means that it falls at the hands of the Secret Service.
Looking at the first assassination attempt in Butler, it seems like we still don't have many answers. We don't really know a whole lot about Thomas Matthew Crooks. Do you think transparency has been an issue?
It has, and my fear is that now that we have two events that are only a couple of months away from each other, that now you're going to have these investigations just kind of roll into one of another. They morph into one, and that information isn't going to be shared or as robust as it should be. And we notice that transparency is missing. Congress has been complaining about that, about not getting the information that they need. And we need to make sure that we get to the bottom of both of these. The other thing that shouldn't be happening is the Secret Service should not be reviewing itself after a failure. That should be done by outside agencies and groups. You can't have the organization that has now failed significantly two times
Mm.
investigate itself. That flies in the face of common sense.
Well said. Look, in news just in, the FBI has revealed Iranian hackers sent stolen Donald Trump campaign information to Joe Biden's presidential campaign. Can I get your reaction to this?
Well, I've heard this, and obviously, we know how prevalent cyber attacks have become, especially on U.S. politicians and political campaigns. It does not surprise me that they chose to go after the former president's campaign in this way. Again, they've called for his killing repeatedly, and so a cyber attack is no surprise. Good for the Biden administration for reporting this, as they should, to the FBI, and that nobody involved, at least as far as we know to date, engaged with this offer of information. So, we need to keep our eye on Iran. They have proven themselves to be an adversary and not an honest one. They are close to a nuclear weapon, unfortunately, which is going to cause us a whole list of other issues in the Middle East, essentially an arms race. And we know that they meddle through Hezbollah and Hamas when it comes to what's going on with Israel and Palestine. So, a lot of problems in the Middle East right now. Iran has filled that vacuum right now in terms of the neighborhood troublemaker. And it's no surprise that they would try and compromise the Trump campaign.